having our gracious financial institution in our valley, the Educational Employees Credit Union, Mike Jones, who will be talking to you today about what car buying, all the things you need to think about in buying your car, all the different types of financing and options available for you. And so I will, this webinar is actually being recorded, so it will be posted on our Career Development Center. If you go to our website at www.fresnostate.edu/careers, you'll see on the left-hand side of the page, there's a YouTube link for our social media accounts, as well as at the very bottom of the page, there's a YouTube link, and you'll see the recording there, as well as other recordings that we have from the Career Center, and as well from our previous webinar with Mike on saving for retirement. So without that being said, I'll go ahead and pass over to Mike, and I will be monitoring the chat and helping out Mike. I'll turn off my video and let him present to you. Thank you very much, Mike, for being here today.
My pleasure. I'm going to go ahead and switch screens so that you can all see the PowerPoint. Very good. So good afternoon. Very nice to be here. There are just so many different ways to buy an auto. So today we're going to talk about some tips, tricks, and kind of a process to go through. So I'm glad that you're all here. So our objective, give hints on car buying options and techniques, give research resources, consider the cost, and explain financing. So step one is to do your homework. And the first part of doing your homework is to examine for yourself what type of car you need. And I recommend that you write it down. So do you travel much? Do you go long distances? Do you need a vehicle that is designed specifically for great mileage? Do you have kids? Or are you on the opposite end of that where the kids have all grown and moved out, your empty nest? Do you need storage in the car? Do you need a big trunk, or that's not a big deal? Do you need seats that fold down so you can put your skis through? There's all these things to consider. What kind of speed and power do you need? Do you live up in the mountains where you kind of need a little bit of power to get up some of those hills? So some people are looking for two-door coupe. Some people are looking for a four-door sedan or an SUV, a van, a truck, etc. You need to take a look at what your needs are. So let's say that you have a spouse and 3 kids. Does the car that's on the screen right now look like the one that 5 people are going to take on the way to the coast for the weekend? Well, it might be a little cramped for the 3 kids in that back seat, if there is a back seat. So these are the things to consider. I have a friend who, as he got his first child, he also purchased his first 2-seater sports car. It's like, wow, how does that work? And well, that meant that they're always going to have to use the other car for family outings. And really, he was going to drive the sports car himself. Now, that worked okay for him and his family for a while, but those are the things you need to consider. Along with what you need to really look at what you can afford. So there are lots of calculators. You can type into Google or your favorite search engine, payment calculators or auto calculators. And you can also go to our website, and everything that I'm going to show you today is not a commercial for EECU. I will use a lot of our information as an example. There are similar types of things at other websites, other financial institutions. Obviously, I have access to mine, so I'm going to use those as examples for you. So on our website, myeecu.org, if you go to news and resources, financial resources, and financial calculators, and then you can just calculate, okay, if I buy a car for $20,000, what's my payment going to be if I finance it for 4 years or 5 years or 6 years? And so you can figure out what's going to fit in your budget. But it's very important that you know before you even decide on the vehicle how much you can afford. A lot of people make very quick emotional decisions by visiting a car lot. They see a car that they fall in love with, and then they're in a financial situation that is uncomfortable for several years just because they fell in love with that car. It's not just the price. So while you're looking at the calculator to tell you what your loan is going to be, remember that there's the price of the vehicle, but there's also tax, license, and registration. Now that's going to add to the cost. Your down payment is going to bring down the cost. Your trade-in, if you have one, is going to bring down the cost. If you get a rebate, that's going to bring down the cost. But then you're going to add into your budget, not necessarily the calculator, but add into your budget the cost of insurance, the cost of maintenance and fuel. So the fuel right now is relatively affordable, but there are seasons when the price goes quite high. And there are seasons when thankfully it comes back down. So does your budget need to take that into consideration? And then you go back to listing your needs and your wants. So we started off with your needs. What kind of car do you need? Now we need to take a look at the needs and the wants. Four-wheel drive, that's always nice to have. 5-passenger car, or maybe it's just you or you and a spouse. You can get away with a 2-passenger car. How many cylinders do you need? Entertainment system, keyless entry. Now I'm not sure that they make a car anymore without the keyless entry. I suppose they do, but I've not seen them anymore lately. But we all go click, click and have it nice and open. Do you need room for a car seat for a child? These are all things that you need to consider. And then you write them down. Put your wants on one side and your needs on the other side. Bluetooth. I mean, again, I'm not sure that they're making cars without Bluetooth, but maybe they are. That's kind of a want, but moving really over towards the needs in our common life today. When we get directions, when we get phone calls, we need the Bluetooth to just kick in, right? What about extra speakers and cruise control, and what kind of cruise control, and tinted windows and sunroof? Or do you need 4 doors? Do you need fold down seats? Do you need air conditioning? If you're in Fresno, you need air conditioning, right? So these are all things to consider, and then circle the items that are the most important. Okay, so you've looked at what you need. You look at what your budget can afford. You go back to your needs and your wants. You categorize them, and you circle the items that are the absolute most important. Now, there's 2 types of equipment. When they're talking about what you want and need, there's 2 types of equipment. There's the standard equipment and there's the optional equipment. Now, the standard equipment, that's on the sticker. It's all included in the price, which is the MSRP. There's also the optional items, so the add-ons, and they might be big things like air conditioning. Now, for those of us that live in this area, we're like, how is air conditioning like an optional add-on? It's kind of a necessary. There are some parts of the country where the weather is very mild, and there are cars that actually don't have air conditioning. I've lived here my entire life. It's kind of crazy to think about a car without air conditioning. Or it might be things as small as intermittent wipers, right? The wipers that will go and then pause and then go and then pause. Believe it or not, sometimes that's considered an optional add-on. Now, when you're looking at the car, you need to look at the whole package, okay? What is standard, what is optional, what you want on it, and what that's going to cost, okay? Look at the whole package. And then go and do your research, okay? There's auto safety rating websites. So just Google it in there, auto safety rating. And it's going to give you 3, 4 top websites for you to go and take a look at. Highway Safety Transportation has a site. Consumers has a site. There's quite a few sites out there. So there's some great ratings out there. So you don't want a vehicle that if something happens on the safety issue that you're not in a good position, right? You want to take a look at what those safety ratings are. You want to take a look at what the prices are. Lots of sites for that. So you're going to be Googling, maybe it's the local dealership. Maybe it's the national, and you can look at the local dealership for Jeep, or you can take a look at, the Jeeps for the national website. Just tons of it, and you're going to take a look at the prices. Now, there's also a difference here between looking at it for a new car and a used car, right? Because there's going to be a lot of sites that are selling used cars as well. And the variability of the price on those sites is quite drastic. There's also quite drastic variability from one location in the country to another, or one location in a large state like California. So the price of a car in one area could be very different than the price of the car in our area. And if you are able to find a car not too far away that you're able to get a good price on, you know, it might be worth that distance. But you're going to take a look at the prices. You're familiarizing yourself with the cars that you want and the prices that are out there for it, okay? You're not necessarily deciding right now, that's the car. And this is not a one research, one website, done, found it, you know, all is good. You've got to familiarize yourself with what's out there, okay? It's kind of like when you're researching your term paper, right? You don't go to one website, get one article, and you're done. Whatever topic it is, you look at multiple sites, you look at multiple articles, you familiarize yourself with the topic, and then you're able to make a decision on how to write that paper. Well, it's the same thing for auto buying, but unfortunately, so many people make emotional buys instead of actually doing the website searches. And then you can actually go in and look at what websites are selling those cars. Now, there are some websites also for, especially on used cars, some websites that will tell you what the background is of that car, right? You can do a VIN check. You can do, has that car been in an accident? You can, you know, what is the true mileage of that car? You can Google all that and find out for a specific car that you're looking at, whether they're telling you the truth, right? So this is your homework. Now, okay, I'm kind of partial. My most important favorite website is myeecu.org. And just as an example, again, other financial institutions have information for you as well. I'm just going to show you as an example the way many of us have it categorized. There could be news and resources, and then financial resources, and then car buying resources for us. Now with that, I'm just going to give you these three tiles here. And again, these are very common amongst many financial institutions, but again, I do love us. Over on the one side is AutoSmart. That's actually where you can find and purchase an auto. They'll link you right through the AutoSmart website. Insurance options. If you're looking for auto insurance, you don't have an insurance agency that you're working with, here's an option for you. And remember, I mentioned calculators. So you can calculate a loan payment just by clicking on that tile and take you straight to a calculator. So again, lots of financial institutions have these. Do your research. And then you can also apply for a loan online, as well as a lot of financial institutions, EECU included. We have more and more financial education available for you out there. So if you go to our Money 101 tab and our Financial Fitness Center, we have a couple vendors that we have put their information on our website. And these vendors are on a lot of financial institution websites, especially a lot of credit union websites. So there's Balance and EverFi, and both of those have tons of information about buying a car. They're not going to sell you a car. They're just going to talk about what do you need to consider when you're buying a car. So if you're interested in educating yourself more and more on this topic, instead of making that emotional buy, these are the places to go. Now, types of purchasing. There's dealer purchase, right? So you go to the dealer, you find that car, and you start making a deal. And we're going to talk about that deal as we go along. But you start looking at the car, test driving it, seeing what you like, and then you're buying it from the dealer. Now, the dealer could have financing, or you could get financing through a third party, such as EECU or some other financial institution, right? There's private party. So, you're seeing the car listed, in some sort of web search, or it's parked out on the street with a for sale sign on it, or you've got a buddy or somebody that knows somebody else that, hey, this car is for sale. So you're buying it directly from them. And then there's also a lease buyout. Maybe you right now are leasing a vehicle, and at the end of that lease, you can purchase that vehicle. So all of these have different processes for you to go through, right? Because with a dealer, they're going to give you a purchase order. And when you come to the financial institution to do the loan, we're going to get the purchase order. We're going to make sure everything adds up right on that. And then we're going to make a check out to the dealer. For a private party, if they have it financed somewhere else and we need to pay them off, they're having who you're buying it from is having to bring into us who that goes to, the payoff, and then any extra to them. Or if it's already paid, it's free and clear, then to them, but they need to have the pink slip, the title. Here in California, they're not pink anymore, but we still use that term, pink slip, for the title and registration. And then the lease buyout, obviously you would already have the registration on that because it would be something that you have been leasing all along, and you would bring that in along with the purchase order from the dealership that you have been leasing, and we go through that process. So every one of these types of purchases has its own unique ways of accomplishing it. So it's either going to be that purchase order, or somebody's going to have to come in with the license, the registration, and certificate of title. So make sure you bring us the right documents. When confused, just ask us, because we want you to be as prepared as possible.
Hey, Mike, I had a question on the chat. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, but when will you be talking about financing options and what financing means? Do you plan to talk about that during your presentation?
Let's talk a little bit about it now. So your financing options, if you have cash, buy it cash. That's nice. That way you don't have to pay a loan. But if you're, most of us don't have enough cash to buy a car just outright. So our financing options are to go to either the dealership itself, because the dealership is going to have some places that it pushes financing through. Toyota has Toyota Credit, where you can get a loan directly from them. Many of them also have kind of the next tier of financing available as well. So Toyota Credit, maybe they're like, oh, we're not approving that loan. Well, the dealership, the local Toyota dealership, might have other finance companies that are willing to take on the loan. Now, typically those are going to be at a higher interest rate than your like Toyota Credit itself. If you ever see 0% interest, that's going to be through the dealership itself, like the Toyota Credit or Ford Motor Credit or GM Credit. So they're making money on the car, therefore they feel that they can do okay by having a loan without interest. So there's that. Now, in addition to financing directly through like Ford Credit or Toyota Credit, one of them, you can go through a bank or a credit union. The difference between a bank and a credit union is basically who's giving you the best deal at the time, right? Typically, your credit union is going to have a fairly low interest rate in comparison with everybody else. But shop around. If you contact us and say, hey, your interest rate is this, but I can get this at this institution, we're going to say, we bless you and thank you, and we don't blame you for taking a lower interest rate. You take a look at the cost. You have to do what's best for you. We just know that most of the time you're going to get a really good deal with a credit union. Now, in addition to banks and credit unions, there's what is called a finance company. Now, a finance company is not a bank, it's not a credit union. They have the ability to take on a higher risk. So if your credit is not as perfect as you would like it to be, you might be looking at a finance company. And then you have to decide whether or not the cost of getting a loan at that finance company is worth it. Because it's not unusual for an interest rate for an auto at a finance company to be above 15%, to be even above 20%. So that gets very expensive, so be very careful. And how do you know it's a finance company? Take a look at the interest rates that they're offering. That usually tells you. I did at one time in my career work for a finance company, and that's where I learned, wow, these are expensive loans. And so they're doing that because they're taking a bigger risk.
Hey, Mike, so we also have a question. So what if you have no credit and you're a first time buyer? Also, I guess very young in age. So like, is there any programs available for them, or what kind of recommendations do you make?
There are a lot of times that the dealership itself will have a first-time buyers program. There's also, if you're buying a used car, sometimes there are deals, up and down the main, here in Fresno, Blackstone. Sometimes the used car dealers, they have first-time buyers deals. Now, those are not the lowest interest rates at all. So you might, if you don't have any credit and you're looking for a car, you might start off with a car that's not brand new, a car that's not really expensive. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, and come to your favorite financial institution so that we can take a look at getting you that first loan. And that first loan is maybe smaller. Now, I know that my first car 40 years ago, wow, I can't believe it's already 40 years ago that I purchased my first new car. I'd had, old clunkers before that, but 40 years ago, I bought my first new car and I spent $10,000 for it. It's like, wow, cars are $10,000. And now you're thinking, wow, I wish I could find a car for $10,000 because you're looking at 15, 20 and above now. So you're not looking, if you're no credit, you might not be looking for that brand new, shiny, it's got everything car. You've got to start off with something that you can afford and that you can prove that you can make the payments on. Okay? Got to prove yourself. So start conservative, start small. When you go to finance a car, there are some additional products that you need to make a decision on. And there is a wide variety of prices on the identical products. So let's talk about what some of those are. GAP, which is guaranteed asset protection. So what that does is if something happens to your car, if it is stolen and not recovered, or it is damaged, meaning accident, and it's beyond repair, and they're totaling the car, you might have a blue book value that is here, but your balance is significantly above that. You might have heard people say in the past, you buy a new car and you roll it off the lot and it immediately depreciates in value. That's true. Now, how much does it depreciate in value and how fast? That changes from car to car. But it is not unusual for a new car for you to owe more on it than the value until you get significantly along in the loan. Maybe you have a 4-year loan and a year and a half to 2 years down the line is when you finally owe less than the value. It's worth more than what you owe. But what if something happens to the car when the value is lower than what you owe? Okay, they don't just forgive that. Oh, well, the car is totaled, bless you and be on your way. No, you owe that loan. But if you have purchased something such as the GAP, guaranteed asset protection, and something happens to that car, then it pays off the vehicle. No matter how much it is over what the value is, it pays off the vehicle. Now, for the type of gap that we have, and a lot of institutions might have this as well, is if you're going to replace that vehicle with another loan with us within the next, I believe it's 30 days, then they give you an additional $1,000. So they pay off the vehicle and they put $1,000 towards your next vehicle loan with us. And we know that, insurance covers what insurance covers, but you have to pay your deductible on top of that. Well, the type of gap that we have also puts $500 toward your deductible. So all of that for us, it's a one-time cost added into the loan of $250. Motorcycles are $199. Now, here's the thing to think about. What do those cost at the dealership? Now, the dealership they're not bad people. Okay, the dealer, people go onto the dealership lot and they think, oh, this is a battle. They're the evil people. No, they're not. They have a product and they want to sell you that product. And it's up to you to make sure that you're getting the best deal possible. It is not unusual for me to see Gap sold at the dealer for somewhere around $600 to $750. Identical protection for what you can get for $250. So you need to know your prices before you buy these products. Now, in addition, what about mechanical breakdown protection? This would be protection over and above your warranty. So take a look at your warranty. How extensive is it? And then do you want additional coverage? Now, I can't give you a price on this because there's so many options. So there's a variety of cover options, whether you want to protect the drivetrain or whether you want to protect bumper to bumper or something in between. So there's tons of coverage options. And then do you want a no deductible? Do you want a $200 deductible? Do you want a $1,000 deductible? That's going to change the price. Now, what's nice is some of these, like the one that we have, are transferable when you sell the car. So if the MBI policy is still in effect, when you want to change cars and you're selling it, that's kind of an additional deal that you can put on there for the person that's buying it. That makes your car more attractive to them, and maybe you can get a better price for your car than other people with the same car because you have the MBI on there. But again, I can't really quote you a price on there because it changes for car to car, the coverage option, the deductible option. So lots, but if you want that, make sure and shop it around, okay? So the dealers are not necessarily the lowest prices on there. I used to manage a branch here in town, and there were a couple dealers that they would come to me. They would bring their customers to me because they knew that I could get them a lower price, a lower interest rate than what they could get in through their dealers, and that I could get them less price on the MBI and the Gap. And if that saved the person money, then they could sell the person a bigger car. It's like, okay, well, whatever works for you. But it was saving the customer, which we call a member, money.
Before you move on, Mike,
Please.
we have a question. So obviously, your previous slide on MBI, is the MBI required for a loan even when the car is new?
No, an MBI is not required on a loan.
Okay.
Gap is not required on a loan. MBI is not required on a loan. Life or disability protection is not required on a loan. And I stress that because that's by law. Okay, by law, these cannot be required on any loan. Definitely here in California. I've always worked in California, so I don't know the laws of other states. But in California, it is not required. Okay, having insurance on your car is required. Having additional mechanical breakdown insurance is not required. Having additional Gap protection is not required. Okay, just having your personal liability insurance is required on your car, that by law. But by law, nothing else is required. Good question.
Great. And then we have another question. Can someone co-sign for you even though they've already co-signed for someone else a year ago on a
Sure. Yeah, as long as it fits within their budget, because for some institutions, we'll put them on as co-signers. Other institutions, such as us, we put them on as co-owners. So it's actually going on both people's credit reports. And so whoever is signing, they need to be able to financially afford that vehicle. So if their personal stuff and what they've signed for somebody else and this new item all fits within their budget, okay, that's fine. If them signing on other things a year ago kind of stretches their budget to the limit, they might not be the best choice because they've already gotten to that limit. If something happens to both of those loans, they're responsible for it. And we don't want to put somebody in a situation where they cannot afford life because they were trying to be nice and co-sign or additionally sign as another owner of that loan.
And then another question is, again, going back to like having no credit history, but having a steady income, is there any ways that a person can build credit to help them afford to go out and get a loan to get a car?
Gosh, oh golly, yes. And we have an entire workshop on that. So let me just give you some a quick couple of suggestions. If you are 21, you should get your first credit card. Yes, you can get it between 18 and 21, but it's more difficult. But if you are 21, you should get your first credit card and have that be a small $500 credit card. It does not have to be, gee, I've got a limit of $10,000. No, start small. You're not going to get approved for these large amounts if you have no credit history. So you start small. You can also go to department stores when we can go back to department stores. You can go to one of the department stores when you're doing a purchase. A lot of times they have a deal where you can apply for that department store credit card. That's usually a good way to get a first credit card as well. Do not go out and get 10 credit cards. One, maybe two, and then just occasionally use them and pay them off. And that starts to develop your credit. Good.
Okay, but there's a few more questions. I mean, they're specific, but I mean, I don't know if you're going to touch it on it later, but let's ask. Um, so a student purchased a car and wants to know about like refinancing already. So
Okay.
it's been over 2 years. They bought their brand new car at 3.9% APR. So is it a good option to refinance with a monthly lower monthly payment? What are your
Yes.
thoughts?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, we do a lot of refinancing for people that have purchased the car and then realize they could have done better. And so as soon as the title comes, they get their title and registration in the glove box, they get their tags on the plate, they immediately start looking for some place to refinance that. That's fine. You don't have to wait a year. You don't have to wait 2 years. You can refinance right away. And we do a ton of those. And it's all good, definitely.
Okay, and then let's see. You're okay, Mike, with taking time to answer some of these questions? You're okay?
Sure.
Okay, all right. So let me go back up. There's quite a few, so I'm trying to summarize the best I can. So, um, what is the best way to do a cost comparison on any given vehicle? And is there any source or tool to use for pricing when looking to purchase a vehicle?
Well, you're going to
Mhm.
do a search, whether it's Google or your other favorite search engine, and for the price. And really, there's not any one website out there that I recommend. Um, Most of you are probably pretty savvy on Excel, so I would just start a spreadsheet. Go into our calculator, put in the information, and then on your spreadsheet, list down, this vehicle, this price, this interest rate is going to be um, this much per month. And then also go clear down and go, okay, for the entire total of payments. So by the time I get this paid off, how much will I have paid total? And then you just list them on a spreadsheet. Um, there's probably some website out there that'll do side-by-side comparison. None stick to my head in my head right now. just because I'm kind of an Excel listed out there for myself kind of guy. If you find one, fantastic, share the knowledge with other people. But yeah, don't be afraid to just list it out on a spreadsheet. And
And
let's
here's
do
some,
one
here's,
more,
oh, go
one
ahead.
more question, and then we'll move on to for more
Yeah,
information.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'll tie these together. It seems like we got a lot of young people interested in buying cars. So, I guess, is it possible to purchase a vehicle without having a credit score or a cosigner? Is it possible?
Sure, but it's going to be a smaller car. You're not looking at a $25,000 car. You're looking at a car that's a little bit older, for a less price, so that whoever is deciding on the loan knows that they're not taking a huge risk on somebody that has not proven themselves yet.
Perfect. Thank you. Yep.
Perfect. And we'll come back to some more questions in a few minutes. Another type of optional protection, again, it's optional protection, is life and disability insurance. So if you pass away, what happens to that vehicle? Does it get repossessed because there's nobody that can make the payments, or does it get paid off? And if you have a spouse, a lot of people, especially if they're married, they want that life protection, because if something happens to them, they want the vehicle to be free and clear for their spouse to drive and to own without any payment. And then there's disability insurance. If you become disabled, who's going to make the payments? If you become disabled and you can't work, is what we're saying here. Who's going to make the payments? Well, the disability insurance can. And it's all going to be dependent on what is your preference and what kind of coverage you want. For me, as an example, I'm single. Therefore, if I die, I don't care what happens to the car. But if I become disabled, I might still want that car, right? So I have disability insurance. I don't have life insurance. But other people, it all depends on your situation. And again, shop around, okay? Because the dealer might be charging one price, but you can get it maybe a lower price through your financial institution. Now, you can apply for a loan at pretty much any financial institution, and I have our information down there just as an example. You can apply for a loan in person at a branch. Right now, if that branch is open and they're doing in-person loans, then you can do that. We are still open and we're still doing in-person loans with a whole lot of shields in between you and the workers. Or you can call over a phone number. Most places have an 800 number you can call, or you can apply online. Most financial institutions, you can apply just right online. So it's very convenient in many different ways to apply for the loan. And we're going to skip this because you don't need me to give you a commercial. When you do your research, here's a very important point. We recommend that you research 3 vehicles, okay? 3 different vehicles, so that you are not just tied to one. Now, if you decide this is one vehicle I want no matter what, that's fine, okay? You're not going to have as many options, okay? But research 3 different vehicles so that you know what the prices are, what the options are on that car, the standard equipment, the optional equipment, what are the prices you can get, what are they selling for? You can take a look at the selling history of that car just in general in your area and what the prices are, and ask your family, ask your friends, look at the internet for whether people have found the car to live up to what it says or not. Several years ago, I bought a Jeep Patriot. I love my Jeep Patriot. I can see it right through my window right now. But guess what? Jeep stopped making the Patriot. Now, in some circumstances, that means, that might mean that it's a collector's item because you can't get it anymore. Not so much for the Jeep Patriot. They stopped making it because not a lot of people were buying it. And so the value has not really held on it for me. I probably owe more on it than I can get for it at the time. I don't know. But these are things that you need to take a look at. What are the prices, right? And once you have your 3 options, then it's time to go onto the car lot and start test driving the car. Whether it's new or used, what should you look for? Before you drive, what are you going to look for? You're going to look at the engine, right? You're going to look at the exterior. You're going to look at the interior, both from the driver's seat and from the passenger seat and from the back seat. Don't be shy about opening up the back seat, getting in there and sitting down, right? You need to know if you're going to put people back there, are they going to be complaining the entire time? Or is this going to be an okay driving experience? Are the windows what you want? Are they in good shape? Are they tinted because you want tinted? Are they not tinted? What do you want? And then you're going to drive the car. How does it drive? I remember there was one car when I was looking for cars, I was test driving, and the person that worked at the dealerships in the passenger side, and he and I got in the car, and as soon as we pulled out of the driveway of the dealership, it made a funny noise. And I looked at him and he looked at me and he says, I've never heard it do that noise before. And then the noise stopped. And he said, I'm sure that was just a one-time noise and it would never happen again. And I went, okay. He says, but the truth is, because there was that noise, you're never going to buy this car. And we should recognize that at this moment. Go ahead and turn around, take it back, and we can test drive a different car. That was a smart salesman, okay? Because there was no way I was going to drive that car. You need to drive that car, right? You need to know that it handles like it should. I test drove one used Jeep. I ended up buying a new Jeep, but I test drove one used Jeep. And boy, the steering was all wishy-washy. I mean, it had a lot of give before it actually started to turn. And I brought that to the salesman's attention, and it was a different lot than that first one I talked about. And the salesman was like, oh, that's normal on Jeeps. It's like, yeah, no, we're not only are we not buying this Jeep, I'm not buying a car from this guy at all, right? So you need to do the test drive. And just there could be a lot of other things you're looking for. Keep your eyes open, right? Now, what about
Mike, real quick.
yeah.
So you were talking about engines. So any tips on what to look at when you pop the hood and look at the engine? Any ideas as what they need to look at? Obviously, probably no parts missing or or something taped together, right?
Yeah, duct tape is not a good sign, okay? So in general, you want to see a clean engine. If they have taken the time to steam clean that engine, then it's probably a good sign. Now, that doesn't mean it's perfect, but if they've taken the time to steam clean that engine. If it's a brand new car, probably everything's fine. If it's a used car, you're gonna have to look at it a little bit closer. If you're able to take somebody with you that knows a lot about engines, great, take them with you. Don't be afraid to pull the dipstick out and take a look to see whether the oil is clean or dirty. If it's dirty, then it's like, okay, you're selling a vehicle without having even changed the oil. You got to wonder. So, just some of those simple things. I am not well educated on engines. I know how they work. There's actually on YouTube some fantastic videos on how an internal combustion engine works. You should go see them. I mean, it's fantastic. So I understand it, but it's not like I'm a mechanic. There's things I just don't know. So taking somebody with me, if it's a used vehicle that knows more, is not a bad idea. But again, the cleanliness is a big indicator, okay? What about the price? We always hear about markup, okay? There's what the dealer pays for the vehicle, and then there's what they are going to sell it for over and above that. So the difference is the markup. And now it's recommended that you start your negotiations on the price that what the dealer pays for the vehicle and then add money to there. Don't start with the sticker. The dealer says, oh, this is what we're selling it for. Don't start there and start bringing things down. Start with what they, if you can find out, what they paid for it and add money to it. And the markup percentage that the dealer is asking for is it's kind of on a range. You know, the lower end, more affordable vehicles like the compacts and subcompacts, they're going to have a lower markup than the average price car, but then a luxury car is going to have a higher markup. So for the luxury car, you might be looking at 28 to 35% above what the dealer paid. For the compacts and subcompacts, you might be looking at 6 to 9% above what the dealer paid, whereas the average car price markup might be 15 to 22%. Now, this is what the dealer wants you to pay, but you can negotiate a deal from that. And the process for negotiating the deal is you've done your research on 3 cars and you're willing to walk away if it's not the deal that you want. You know that there are multiple places in town that you can probably get any one of those 3 vehicles. So you're not emotionally tied to one item. So be willing to walk away. So again, start with what the dealer paid and add money. You're going to make an offer, and most likely the dealer, the salesperson that you're talking to is then going to take that offer. They're going to leave the little room that you're in, and they're going to disappear saying that they have to get that offer approved, and they're going to come back with a counter offer. It's going to be quite a bit more than what you offered. And don't be afraid to give another offer. It's like, well, my offer was this to start with. Well, I'll increase it a little bit. I'll offer this. And again, they disappear and they're gone for a little while, and they come back and they'll probably have a counter offer that's above what you said that you're willing to pay. At this point, you should be willing to make your third and final offer. And this is the amount that you knew that you were willing to pay, the bottom line. Okay, if you got it cheaper than that, fantastic. But this is your bottom line. You've done your research. You know that you can walk away and get this deal maybe better at some other lot. But this is your bottom line. And you tell them, this is my third and final offer. You write it down and you circle it and you let them know, if you cannot make this deal, we understand, but we won't be buying the car today. And be willing to walk away. Okay. When you go onto a lot, the most common questions you'll hear are, what is your price range? How much do you want your monthly payment to be? Will you be trading in your current vehicle? We recommend that you tell them, we can talk about all of that later. I would like to look at this particular vehicle. That way they know, hey, I'm not playing around. I know what car I want. I'm not just generally looking for what's shiny and sparkly and it's catching my attention. I want this particular vehicle. And you can later on talk about how much your monthly is and whether or not you have a vehicle to trade in. But none of that needs to be handled at first. If they know that you have a trade-in, it's not unusual for them to not come down very far in the price of the car. As you're negotiating the price of that new car, they're keeping in their mind, hey, I'm having to pay for that old car, and maybe I can cover some of that cost by getting a better deal on the new car so that, the dealership is a little bit better off. Now, again, the dealership, they're not the enemy. They're not terrible people. They are there to get the best deal for the dealership, but to sell you an honest vehicle at the same time. You need to get the best price that you can without trying to take advantage of them, okay? A lot of times we get this question, which is better, 0% interest or a rebate? Because you hear this all the time. Just in December, I heard some of these deals on TV. It was like $2,500 rebate or 0% interest. Which is better? You need to do the math. Okay, so if you get a loan at, let's say, 2%, and over the entire life of the loan, at 2%, you're going to pay interest of $1,500. And you're deciding on whether to get that loan or to get 0% interest, and the rebate is $2,000. Okay, take the rebate. Okay, if you get the 0% interest, you have saved 1,500. If you get the rebate, you got 1,000. Sure, you're spending 1,500 on interest, but the difference is you're $500 richer than you would be otherwise. So you got to do the math and which one is the lowest price for you when all is said and done. If you're having difficulty with that, contact us, call us. Like, hey, I'm looking at this vehicle. Here's the price. Here's the rebate. And here's what interest would you guys finance it me at. And we're going to tell you what interest rate we're going to finance you at. And we'll tell you whether it's better to get the 0 interest or the rebate. Now, that's one of the reasons that people do trust some of their financial institutions more than others. And you got to, whatever financial institution you use, you need to make sure that you trust them. Because people call us all the time and say, should I get the 0 interest or the rebate? And we do the calculations like, wow, the 0 interest is better. That means we're not going to do a loan for you, but you need to take the 0 interest. You need to be happy with that. And we're okay. We're going to be fine. We'll get loans from other people. When you go car shopping, allocate plenty of time. Okay? Take documents with you. You're going to need your driver's license because you're going to test drive a car. If you're going to be trading in a car, you're going to need the loan information if you have a loan on it. You're going to need your registration. What about your bank account information? What about your pay stub income verification? Because if you're getting a loan through them, you're going to need all that documentation. And there are some things that are not great ideas, such as don't take children with you. They're a distraction. Now you're trying to do something quick before the child gets fussy. So yeah, don't take children with you. Tell the salesperson what you want. I should say, don't tell the salesperson what you want your payment to be, okay? If you say, yeah, I want my payment to be $350 a month, they're going to sell you as expensive of a car as possible and stretch the loan out for the maximum time frame to keep your payment down. Okay, that's not comfortable. Having a 7-year loan is not comfortable. Okay? Maybe you want a 5-year loan or a 4-year loan. So really, don't be telling the person what you want your monthly payment to be. If you've been pre-approved, we don't recommend that you worry about telling them that you've been pre-approved for this amount. That's your business, not their business. If you say, oh, I've been pre-approved for $20,000, you're going to walk out of there with a car that's $25,000 because they're not going to let you walk out with anything less than what they know that you've been pre-approved for. It's kind of, I'm kind of a smart aleck when I go onto a lot. There's this one dealer, he's like, so how much can you afford to spend? The answer was, to spend anything that I want. Let's find out what I want. I want to drive this car. And I told him the vehicle that we were going to test drive for that day. It really took him back. It's like, you can afford anything you want? It's like, well, yeah, what I want is what I can afford, and it's really none of his business. So don't tell the salesperson upfront what you're trading in the car. Again, you lose some of your negotiability on the new car when you do that. You can tell them after. My last car, by the way, I just sold to my sister for a lot less than it was worth. But maybe you're going to sell it or give it to your sister or brother or a niece or nephew, or maybe you have kids that are right at the driving age. So all of that, it's like, there's tons of stuff that I can do with my existing car. I don't need to trade it in. But after you've made the negotiation on the new car, that's when you can say, well, what if I did trade this in? What would it be? Don't sign a contract that has blank spaces. Don't buy a car without considering the entire cost. And don't go in with a chip on your shoulder, okay? They are not the bad guys, okay? And this quote down here by Donna Kane, you are the most important person on that lot. Now, a lot of the information that I got for the presentation today is by Donna Kane. She puts out car buying videos and tutorials. So she's a good source. Okay, questions that you guys have?
All right, Mike. Yeah, we have a few questions. So, has to do with like building credit. Let's see, how long should we wait to build our credit via like credit cards or renting apartments or, you know, leasing or something before buying a new car? Is there like a,
Sure. Now, renting an apartment, by the way, does not build your credit. It does not show on your credit report. Okay. So, credit cards, loans build your credit report. So, sorry if you can hear the leaf blower outside my window. My apologies. Um, so, credit cards, auto loans, personal loans, home loans, any loan builds your credit. So you might want to build your credit for at least 6 months before you go looking for that vehicle. But again, if you need that vehicle and that's going to be your first loan, that's okay. Just know that it's not going to be a huge loan. You need to start conservatively.
another question is like, how do you know what the dealership paid for? Is it something you can, web search, or are you expecting them to be honest and show you the price they paid?
Right. And again, that is, I got that from Donna Kane's tutorial. I have not been really great at succeeding in that in the past. You can do some web searches, what do dealers pay for in these cars? You can get some information. It's not great information. You can ask the dealer on a used car. You can see the paperwork of what they paid for it. I just don't know that you see the actual paperwork. I don't know if they're showing you the true thing. So it doesn't hurt to ask. Um,
Yeah.
that was, yeah,
Yeah.
know what you want to pay for it. That's the most important.
So what do you mean by blank spaces on a contract?
Right. So on an invoice for your vehicle, it's going to be very standard. They print this off and it's got these lines in it, kind of like you're filling out a form, online. It's got all this verbiage and then you fill in a blank and then fill in a blank. So the form is like that. And it has blanks for the type of car and the mileage and the cost and the financing. And if you're looking through there and anything is blank, don't sign it. If there's a blank line and it's not supposed to be filled in, it's like not necessary. It should be lined through, right? And that is standard for dealerships, both new and used. That if there's a line on a contract that does not need to be filled in because it doesn't pertain to this transaction, then it's supposed to have a line through it. Blanks are not okay. While the dealers are great people, that there might be one or two dishonest people out there that you need to protect yourself from. So blanks in a contract in general, whether it's car or anything else, blanks in a contract are not good.
I guess someone wants to look at that markup slide that you had in previous slides. And then also, is there any times that are better to lease a car versus finance a car?
Leasing a car typically is what people do if they're able to take the cost off on their taxes. So if you're able to take it off on your taxes because it's a work vehicle, or maybe you own you own the business, you have your own business, it's a tax write-off, or it's considered part of the business expenses and just included in that whole thing. That's when you typically see it. I do know of a few people that lease a vehicle because their personal style is that they're going to get a new vehicle every year, period. They know it's expensive. They know that they are spending a lot of money. Some people say they're throwing their money away. It's their money. They can spend it however they want. It is a very expensive way of doing transportation. But if that's what you are going to do, maybe a lease is better because you don't have to worry about did the value of the car come down lower than what I owe for it, and now I'm trying to sell it at a negative, so that's a concern. So if you know that you're going to get that brand new car every year, every December, you go in the end of the year deals and you get that holiday special because that's what you love, Okay, it's your money. You've worked hard for it. You can do whatever you want. It is expensive, but a lease might be better than a purchase at that point. I've only met a couple people in my entire life that is true for them. But a whole lot of businesses do lease a car.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. I know we're over time, everyone. There's so many darn questions that everyone wants to ask Mike. I'm pretty sure the best thing is just to talk to a financial institution, maybe find out what's available to them. They have so many different circumstances that they were providing in the chat. But I also want to let the students know, let me go ahead and turn on my video, that we in the Money Management Center, I posted in the chat feature a survey. So if you can fill out the survey and let us know, how the presentation was today and any future topics that you'd like to see, that'd be great. But I know this is a lot of information and the students are really interested in this particular topic. I wish we could be in person because then we could stay a little longer, but people are jumping off the webinar and I want to give you an opportunity to